Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Herd the Nerds. I'm Keith, and we are here with part 2 of the Bacta Podcast. On my right, the amazing Rob, master of all things Jedi, the archive himself.
Hello there.
Welcome back.
Yes,
back. Very nice. And the R2D2 and 3PO of our podcasts, Mr. Cameron Hill.
How we doing?
We're doing super
I couldn't
great.
say hello there, too.
Yeah. Sorry, I took it. Well, gosh, guys, it's been a roller coaster of 24 hours. We got like Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
We had Obi drop. I mean, we're recording here. The first real
Trailer upon
episode.
trailer.
It's a great week to be a Star Wars fan.
It's a great week.
I've been
What
having
a time to be alive.
Oh
Is
my
this
god.
the first in-person celebration since the pandemic? Or
Yes.
did they do it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, they were
So-
talking about how when they the last time they did Star Wars Celebration, no
Mhm.
one had seen Mandalorian yet.
Oh right.
So when
Oh,
people
yeah.
went back, it was
This
like,
is true.
wow.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
That is
that's
crazy.
crazy.
How
Yeah.
much has changed for Star Wars in that
Since
time
then.
where like Mando is now like he's the center, he's the nucleus
Yeah.
around which Star Wars revolves, it seems like right
Wild.
now. Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue. But first, we just want to say thank you to everyone who watched the show and listened to the show
Yeah.
last week. Really great positive responses. Again, thank you for liking and subscribing and doing all that fun stuff.
Yes, thank you.
And more the merrier. So first off, before we jump into the tank,
Take
we're-
a little dip.
we're going to talk a little bit about the announcements that dropped because we also have thoughts about those and they are Star Wars related.
A
So,
lot this week.
first thing I want to say, the Andor trailer kind of surprisingly kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, everybody that knows me knows this. If you're watching this, you probably put this together. If you put Star Wars on it, I'm probably going to watch it. But I was going to be like, I hope it's good. But based off that trailer, I was very pleasantly surprised and very much looking forward to it at this point.
Yeah.
Really excited for the Andor trailer.
Yeah. Cam, what did you think?
I was the same way. Rob was so excited. He texted me about it. But-
Look at this.
I'm definitely hyped for that. And for now we know how long it's going to be. They've already got season 2, so now I'm like, okay, they're investing
12
quite
episodes.
a
I
bit.
mean,
They're investing
that's
quite a bit in this.
Double what we're getting for
Yeah.
Obi-Wan. I mean,
Ka-ching.
we don't know the length of the episodes themselves, but
Yeah.
that's for Star Wars and for Disney Plus in general, 12 episodes. That's a lot.
And then, yeah, go ahead.
What I saw was, well, for me, it feels like this is going to be a little bit higher stakes because it's all new characters, so we don't
Yeah.
know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, we know what happens to Cassian, but anyone around him, we don't know what's going to happen
Right,
to them.
right.
So.
Yeah.
And also, did I see right? It's like 2 seasons already. They already picked
Yeah.
up for. Wow.
Yeah, so it sounds like this first season is going to cover 1 year's worth of time within the story. It'll be 5 years before.
12 episodes, 12 months. What?
Yeah, so it's going to take place 5 years before Rogue One, basically before New Hope.
Yeah.
That's happening at the same time. So halfway now between Obi-Wan and that. But then season 2 will actually cover the next 4 years, it sounds like, leading right up to Rogue
Okay.
One potentially. I mean, obviously things could change, but it sounds like that is the plan as of now.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what else do we have? I mean, literally 45 minutes ago, we got the new video game announcement, which is
Yes.
Jedi Survivor, sequel
Yep.
to Jedi Fallen Order,
Mhm.
which, I mean, that was a pretty gnarly trailer.
Yeah, it was cool. I haven't really gotten the time to sit down and give it my full attention, to be completely honest, because it came out like literally right before we started recording.
We were like driving, and all of a sudden our group chat went off, and it was like, oh no, well, we're about to record. Oh god.
Yeah, but it does look cool. It looks like we might get the Grand Inquisitor making an appearance
looks like he's in
here.
that,
Yeah.
Maybe even because he had one of the Night Sisters that he teams up with in the game towards the end. Looks like maybe she's in her own Bacta Pod cast.
Someone's in that.
Somebody's healing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they take that story next.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I hope they have updated the map system in that game, because I will say, as much fun as I had playing Fallen Order, the replayability dropped off for me significantly once I was just like, oh my god, I have to go through these maps again, and I'm not discovering this world again for the first time. you know?
it definitely turned. I mean, I played it. I liked some of it, and then I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I didn't finish, but so there's that. They got an announcement for a new show called Skeleton Crew,
Yep.
starring Jude Law. We don't know very much about that one.
No.
No, very few details so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
It sounds like it will be about four kids being lost in space somewhere in the galaxy around the time of Mando. So this is post Return of the Jedi, pre Force Awakens. And very little detail about what they'll be doing. But some rumors that Jude Law might be playing Grand Admiral Thrawn, possibly, which is like, that could work, but we also know that character is supposed to show up on Ahsoka, so
I have like a weird this is definitely like out there fan theory about that.
Okay.
which is that it has to do something with that from the opening scene from Obi-Wan with those kids, which before we get into that, I don't want to got to make sure.
Right.
We'll get into that in a second, but yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those shows where I'm a little worried it's going to kind of fly under the radar, and they're just going to kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say half-ass it, but it just seems like
they're putting a lot out, and they can you can always wonder like what are they putting all of their effort towards, and what are they kind of not putting all their effort
because I mean, to me it feels like, and we'll get into this more, but it feels like this Obi-Wan series is the crown jewel, and like Boba got the kind of the short end of the stick on it.
A little bit.
So, but it's I don't know. We'll see. So is that? And speaking of, Mando season 3 announced going to be coming out.
With they said Bo-Katan's the main antagonist. They're saying, which
I'm down
which
for.
would make sense.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Considering she wants possession of the Darksaber to reclaim rule over Mandalore, she kind of got embarrassed by Giancarlo Esposito's character. You know, by having that taken from her and possibly having cursed the whole race of Mandalore by not getting the Darksaber, you know, the correct way the first time. Which watch Rebels to see how that happens.
It's interesting, her in season 2, like her character in season 2 of Mando versus like her in any other part of Star Wars. She's very much like a problematic character, and then in season 2, it's kind of, there's a little bit of a redeeming arc and like but there's definitely a subliminal. She's got underlying like goals.
Yeah, she tells Din like, "Oh, you were part of a cult, like that followed the Death Watch. You were in Death Watch. You were like part of the founding members of Death Watch. So like, check your tone there, Bo. All right, like, let's not throw stones. All right.
I feel like they definitely undersold her as far as if you don't know her backstory, it kind of
for sure.
It's gonna come out of nowhere, but in a good way. Gosh, the Darksaber. I saw that they're selling that at Target now, and I almost went and bought it. Speaking of, again, reminder, we are doing a video version of this. We have all sorts of fun pop figures, and this is Cam's lightsaber out here in front.
Yes.
So check it out. One of mine. Got some great T-shirts going on.
I'm a Ralph McQuarrie.
Yep.
Oh, Vader concepts, right?
I have a children's book reference. I'm not going to spoil it. If you know, you know. If you can see, you understand. And then Rob with this.
Once again with the Star Wars anime mashup.
Yeah.
Again, we won't spoil exactly what we got going on here. But this was actually gifted to me by our good buddy Charlie.
That's right. Shout out to Charlie Mosier, everyone.
Shout out to Charlie. Thanks for the shirt. Still wear it.
All right. Enough of all that. Now it's time to get really just in the tank, down to business. We're just going to play a quick little warning here because it's very, very important.
This message is a warning and a reminder for any and all listeners or watchers of the Bacta Podcast. Spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead.
All right.
Okay.
You've been warned.
You've been warned.
If that doesn't sell it, I don't know what does.
You've heard the voice. All right.
So, let's just jump right into it. I think first things first, stellar recap right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's the episode. I mean, just like
boiled down all 3 prequels into like one 5-minute little, not even 5 minute. Obviously.
No, 4 minutes and like 7 seconds.
Yeah.
I just watched the first episode again.
I think it's really hard to do recaps in general on a show, and to kind of like tee it up in such a way where you're like, okay, everyone kind of knows where we're at. There's other layers of it, but you see the right things. You get the right emotions going. Everything from Qui-Gon's death to Anakin,
Yeah, and I think it was interesting to see like what they put in there to be like, all right, this is what you need to remember for this show.
Yeah, that's
so that
like,
could
hints,
be some hints of what's to come, but also just like I was a little, as much as I liked it, I was a little surprised of just like, are people watching the show that have no idea what happened in the prequels?
There are. And
I guess
the
so.
Crazy part. It's like there's definitely some kids watching this show that are like, prequel what?
Yeah, that just haven't seen it. Yeah, but. They showed you the whole, the rise and fall of Anakin, and obviously, they brought in everybody's storylines and set us up for exactly where we are. Which is, Obi-Wan, 10 years after the events of this, and when the episode starts, actually, right at the end of, in episode 3, we get to see Order 66 from another point of view.
When they started and the younglings were there, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
I was-
fuck.
Yeah,
like, is this about to get really
It
real?
was intense.
Yeah.
It
I was like, this is how we're starting?
yeah.
yeah. My wife and I were watching it together, and she was just like, "Oh, is this like the interpretive dance class?" And then the lady started going. She's like, "Oh no, this isn't a good time. This is not peaceful." What I really liked in that scene too is getting to see physical, like, non-CG clone troopers. Like, you could tell they had like
Finally.
the actual armor, and it just looked so good. Like, there was something about it. It didn't even hit me at first. I was like, "Wow, these clone troopers look different," and it was because it's not CG armor like they had for both, episode 2 and episode 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I have a theory. I don't know if we want to get into theories now or if we want to wait for these. But Cam and I were kind of talking
We were
about this.
discussing this.
Okay.
There is a young black girl in the Younglings.
She does have a speaking part too, so
Could be
More
that this is a very young version of Reva, the third
That
sister.
that thought did occur to me. It
Yes.
definitely did. And when she said, like, later on in the episode, like, I'll get what I deserve,
Yeah.
like
what I'm owed.
what I'm
Yeah.
owed, or whatever it is, like, I feel like I think you're probably right.
Her axe to grind could
it would be
like,
weird
yeah.
having such that poignant moment and like those characters in it and not have any of them come back to
Yeah,
the rest of the story.
I would be very impressed if they did that,
Yeah.
because it's a great way to set up the tone of the show, which I think this is going to be something I come back to. But they did not shy away from the violence in this show in any way, shape, or form, which I was very impressed with, because they kind of know that the audience is like people that grew up with the prequels who
Yeah.
are now in their late 20s, early 30s, 40s, like it's the millennial generation in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's like those people that are really going to be watching this, and we don't want to see the punches pulled. Like, it was just
Especially given the time period this is set in. This is a very like hyper violent, because you're coming off of just of episode 3, which is very intense, that changeover, and it's just the Empire is taking control and they're not pulling their punches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
not
yeah.
show them do that.
Yeah. So I'm sure those kids, in one way or another, will pop up down the line. Otherwise, why do you put that in there?
Yeah.
But we go right from there to 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
We're on Tatooine. The Inquisitors are arriving. You have the fifth brother, played by Sung Kang.
Okay, time out.
Yep. Go ahead.
How freaking great was
Yeah.
Sung Kang?
He was so good.
He was good. I have like, if I'm being nitpicky, I have some notes about the look.
You have notes about the look.
I have some notes about the look. More specifically, the teeth. I believe the fifth brother is supposed to have like shark-like sharp teeth.
Okay.
Which
Wow,
he's got
deep cut.
very human teeth, and I only am nitpicky about this because they nailed the teeth for the Grand Inquisitor.
They did get it
Okay.
right.
They gave him like the pow in, like, because you saw those guys in episode 2. They kind of have like little like
Yeah.
pointy like
Yeah,
mole
yeah,
teeth
yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. So they got that right on the Grand Inquisitor, played by Rupert Friend, which is a very funny name for this guy who's a very evil hunter of Jedi. But I mean, he's great in the role, and as it went on, and it definitely grew on me. And something else, I watched this. I watched the episode actually with my headphones on, and like they gave so much bass to his voice.
I would say if you haven't watched the episode with a good pair of headphones on, do it, because the sound design and the score, what made me get a whole into the score, but
Absolutely.
the way they modulate his voice just a little bit is just really, really tastefully done.
Agreed.
I loved his presence. I really was into his character, and that's a role that could easily fall flat. And I just think Sung Kang's great in everything. I mean, Fast and Furious is a perfect example of just like a nothing role that became so much bigger than not a nothing role. That's harsh, but you know what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like,
not necessarily meant to be what it became.
right. Exactly.
But then, of course, they also have the third sister with them, named Reva, played by Moses Ingram, who is also just bringing a lot of presence to this role.
Oh
and
my
I think
gosh.
She is
absolutely killing
acting
it.
the hell out of this role.
She came out firing, which I think is just like the coolest way to have her character go at it. That she's just like a force to be reckoned with all the time.
Very angry.
Very angry.
Yes.
Understandably so. She's been through probably quite a bit.
Yes.
To be where she is now. But they're on Tatooine to search out for a rogue Jedi. Actually, not Obi-Wan.
No.
Yeah.
They're searching for somebody else. You see the Grand Inquisitor, kind of giving this bartender the shakedown. They're like, hey, you had some debts, and maybe somebody helped you out of it. And then, of course, Reva has no patience, throws a dagger, and then the Jedi that's in hiding there stops it with the Force, and then the jig is up. And that rogue Jedi is played by Benny Safdie of the Safdie brothers. Am I saying that name?
Safdie, yeah.
Safdie brothers. Writer-director of Uncut Gems. So great little cameo there. And the third sister wants to find Obi-Wan bad.
Yeah.
Like very
Like,
badly.
that's
She doesn't care about the other lowly Jedi, as she said.
No. Yeah. She's just kind of. She's that kid who goes really, really fast and is just bored with the other ones and wants
very
to,
much like Anakin, to be honest. Very
Yeah,
impulsive and very much like.
Yeah. Because she almost cuts this dude down in broad
Yeah.
daylight, and it's actually the Grand Inquisitor uses the Force to like stop her blade right at his shoulder and causes him to allows this Jedi to get away. But right after that, he's just like, what is your deal? What is your problem, lady? And she's just like, like Cam was saying, I'm sick of these small fry. Like, what are we doing here? And I want to find Kenobi, and he's like, that's not your.
It's what so he said it's not for you to do.
Yeah.
Like someone else. Like it's as if it's someone else's job. They're gonna do this. It's not you're not. That's not your.
I think we know who called dibs.
Yeah.
I think we got a pretty good idea who might have called dibs on old Ben Kenobi. But from there we cut to our good buddy Obi-Wan, who is basically cutting up sushi out of some giant manta ray thing.
That thing was awesome. I was like, what are they? Okay, what's this? Oh, they're just doing the sushi line. Like that's
it's such a cool idea that like they just landed there and they're like, well, break out the scaffolding.
Yeah.
This is where the new meat market's going. And probably just a temporary job. Who knows how long this will last? But he's just doing what he can to get by, keeping a low profile, stealing a little meat on the slide. Feed his EOP.
Animal. I will say there's no FDA, and it seems on Tatooine, or at least in the galaxy, 'cause I would not eat that meat. They let it sit out there every day.
That whistle blows on that gonk droid, and they just leave the meat where it is.
Like, we're done.
Throw a little salt on it. It'll be good tomorrow.
Yeah, no thanks.
And also like the fact that he like puts it in his shirt
every
like
day,
that.
yeah.
Can you imagine just putting a slab of tuna
And not
under
washing
your shirt?
washing your hands after either. Just like
and just riding the train home like the
Salmonella. Apparently they don't have that in
And
Star
I
Wars
believe
universe.
that the Jawa who said he probably smelled, he probably did smell.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, he probably was rank. But Obi-Wan is just trying to keep a low profile, keep his head down. He sees another worker of his get stiffed on his pay, and the boss is shut up and deal with it, and looks at Obi-Wan like, you gonna do anything about it?
Yeah,
and he's like,
yeah.
Listen, man, I don't want any trouble. So yeah, he takes his shuttle home and his EOP ride back to his little cave setup. He's got a little security going on. At first I was like, does he have R2 like
I know that
buried
when
under
that
the
thing
sand?
popped up, I was
like,
like, excuse me? And
Get him out of there.
I know. And
For someone who claims to not remember R2.
Yeah, right. But it seems like it's just some sort of little setup he has. But we kind of see how he's got life set up there. This sequence very much reminded me of like what we saw in Force Awakens with Rey. Him preparing his little like bubbly goo stuff that turns into food.
Yeah.
Also parallels to kind of Yoda's hut as well, almost.
Yeah.
From Empire Strikes Back. Just
For sure.
the design and the look of his like cavern or whatever cave he's living in.
Yeah.
But yeah, while he's sitting there eating his little goo dinner, the Jawa arrives and is kind of like, hey, like I got all kinds of parts for you to take a look at. And one of the things he's looking to buy primarily is a toy model of a T-16 Skyhopper spaceship, which I honestly like. This was for me. Full honesty, I got a little misty here because like this is the same T-16 you see Luke playing with in Episode 4.
Yeah.
To think like, oh, he had that thing that was so important to him and he liked to play with. It was a gift to him from Obi-Wan. Was well, hopefully he.
I was saying now, how does he actually get it?
Yeah,
he's been thrown back once.
Yeah.
But he does buy the toy from the Jawa, but also he's just like, Jawa's like, hey, you got something going on with your evaporator here? He's like, yeah, some of my stuff was suspiciously stolen. Hey, weird that you have that exact same part that I need right there in your stuff.
Yeah.
But,
Jawas be Jawas, you know what I mean?
Exactly. But
it's just how it goes.
And then on the way out, he's just like, by the way, you stink. So, but also what the Jawa finds and lets Obi-Wan know about is like, oh, there was a Jedi in town, Inquisitors and everything, big deal, big drama, and Obi-Wan's like, oh, I don't know about any Jedi.
Yeah, and also this is the first time that I think we established that he goes by Ben.
Yeah,
right.
Which
is kind of obviously not a throwback, but a throw forward to later on in Star Wars lore,
where he'll wind up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's just like, I think they found this Jedi's belt and his spaceship, and
to be honest, I after rewatching that, I interpreted that a little bit differently.
Oh, okay.
I think that was Obi-Wan starfighter that he buried in sand because it looked like his belt.
Could be.
It looked like his belt, and that's why he was kind of like, "Ooh, I know who this is. I don't know what this is."
But
I think
that's
where
what
would
I
he
thought.
put his starfighter? He would have had to bury it in the sand. I'm assuming so.
True.
To hide it.
It was spent with that little shovel. It would have taken a long time.
Yeah.
But so we have that sequence, and then he goes to bed that night, and we get he has this nightmare about Anakin, and Qui-Gon and his failure to fulfill Qui-Gon's request to train the boy. I mean, well, he did train him, but
yeah. Well, and I think an interesting point comes out there, which we kind of hopped over, which was in the recap. Yoda is it's very prominent that Yoda's like, I'm going to teach you how to talk to Qui-Gon. And then when he wakes up from this nightmare, he's like, Qui-Gon? And it's like, nada.
Nobody.
But it's been 10 years, so it may be that Qui-Gon's not answering him at this time.
Yeah. It could
and
be.
I'm sorry, Qui-Gon's not available at this time.
When we get to episode 2, some things are revealed on, like, I think Obi-Wan's ability to still feel the Force as well, but we can get to when we get to that part. But
yeah, I do think this is a prediction. I think Qui-Gon's going to be in the movie.
I think he is. I think that was honestly confirmed a lot. Like when they first announced the show, there were rumors that Liam Neeson was coming back to do some scenes.
At the very least, as a voice, because I think the lore established on Clone Wars is that Qui-Gon had found a way to maintain his connection to the living world through the Force, but not. Basically, he was not able to manifest himself as a spirit, but he is able to communicate.
Doesn't he do that though?
Voice.
He does when they go to that like Force world with the brother and the sister who's
Is he
Qui-Gon
there?
does appear to Obi-Wan and basically tells him, "Did you train him?"
Gotcha.
He asks him all these like questions in that.
Because I know he basically guides Yoda on his journey at one point later on, his own little Force journey towards the end, I think, of season 6 maybe.
Yep.
But in that he's just a disembodied voice, and they could go either way. They've left the door open to do either
Did they
one.
not put him in digitally into the old ones? Well, when all the images of the
Episode 6?
Yeah.
No, they did not.
They didn't.
No, he's not in that.
Why do I have an image in my head of that?
I don't think so, and not in any version I've seen, at least.
They've made so many versions at this point.
Right.
That's
So where were we? Okay, so Ben's watching Luke work or at the farm.
Sees he's very much like his dad.
Yeah.
He does not want to be there. He wants to be pod racing
yeah.
and flying ships, and obviously he's
It's working.
yeah. And he leaves the toy for Luke there, and then on his way home, he is confronted by the rogue Jedi named Nari, who's just like, "Hey, I thought I saw you in town. Like, hey, it's me." And he's just like, "I am Ben. I don't know who you. I've never heard of a Jedi."
What is Jedi? I don't know. He pulls out a lightsaber and
Put that away.
I thought that was a trap. I'm not like I was waiting for the Inquisitors to come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was bait, and I thought they were following him. And
I'm sure Obi-Wan thought the same thing.
Yeah, that's probably why he was like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, we cannot be seen in groups. But
Not your friend. Sorry.
I do not know you. Get away from me.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this guy, obviously knowing Obi-Wan is, probably as a council member, as a Jedi master, maybe familiar with his exploits, is just like, you can help me. And Obi-Wan
well, he said you were once a great Jedi. So obviously he was much younger, probably Padawan at
Shots
the time,
fired.
and was like, "Dude, he said, what happened to you?" That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so
he's
very much disappointed.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan, I think his reaction here is twofold. I think he has given up in some ways, where he's just like, we lost.
Yeah.
The time of the Jedi is over.
Yeah.
But I think on the other side of that, his protection of Luke is so important to him that he's like, I can't help you if it jeopardizes.
Well, because to him, it's
Luke.
the last chance. That's the last chance for the universe is Luke.
Yeah.
So he has to keep it safe.
So he tells that guy, take that lightsaber, put it in the desert, and never think about it again.
Yeah.
Just get out of here.
Yeah.
It's over.
I liked, and this is a overarching theme for the 2 episodes for me. I liked seeing the rust and the lack of hope in Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I thought the idea that he's a little rusty, that he doesn't have the same panache that he did coming out of 3.
I mean, he's been solitude 10 years, not doing anything.
I think they harped a little on the fact that he was a little older, a little too much in my opinion. But
yeah, there's at one point I'm just, and obviously we'll get to this when Leia refers to him as like an old man. I'm like, Jimmy Smits looked way older than he does.
He did.
And
he's
he's
like
your
the grandpa joke. I was like,
Yes.
come on,
Yeah.
all right,
not that bad.
Ewan, you look great, man. Shout out.
No, I think they made makeup to make him look older for this. I'm sure.
Yeah,
but,
put a little gray in the beard. But speaking of Leia, after that we do head over to Alderaan. We get to see a good amount of Alderaan, and we meet young Leia, played by Vivian Lyra Blair. I hope I'm saying that right. And her little robot. This is, I'm sure, the merch robot Lola.
It's already out.
It's
I've
already-
already seen
Boom,
ads for
of
it.
course.
On Instagram.
I just did a big sigh when I saw it on screen. I'm like,
At least it was it was almost useful.
Almost.
It
Little
almost saved her.
little noisy, apparently.
it's like a Tamagotchi that floats. I mean,
It honestly looks like that.
I like the one-to-one comparison that this is essentially like her cell phone. That like when she now that she's like, because she's Leia's being kept on her planet. She's not allowed off-world because mostly she's being protected. They want to keep her identity a secret. But she's being forced into this life of pageantry and politics, and she doesn't want that. She wants this life of adventure. She's climbing trees, just watching the ships come in and out, talking with Lola. But as soon as her mom catches her, she's like, "All right, Lola, you're done. Your Lola time is over for the day." Hand her over.
And then the little parlor trick of giving her a hug and being sorry.
what a
and
little scam.
Stealing that. I was like,
A little scam.
Little hints of like Leia though, which I'm glad they kind of threw some character.
oh yeah.
parts in
I
there.
think
absolutely.
there's a lot of really good Leia drops. I mean, I think it followed along with her future character really well.
Yeah. And then, her mom, Breha Organa, is played by Simone Kessel, which is interesting because Kessel obviously is a planet in the whole Kessel run in Star Wars.
That's
Obviously,
probably why they casted her.
they were just
right,
like,
Rob?
They were like they
she's
didn't
gotta
even
be
see
in
her.
this.
Kessel.
She's got to be in it.
That's a ticket
Your
right
parents
into
were
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars fans.
They were all I would say largely. I think there's maybe one or two people, but the acting I thought across the board was really well done. I wasn't. There was no. I mean, there's Flea.
Yeah, which is speaking of
that gay.
yes, he is Flea. But as they're going inside, somebody, it's Flea, is watching from the shadows as they're going inside. Somebody's stalking Leia, essentially. But from there, we actually go back to Tatooine, and we see that Uncle Owen is not having it.
He wants none of it.
Joel Edgerton playing Owen basically tells Obi-Wan to keep his toys away from his kid. Luke's a farmer now. He's not into this whole life of Jedi training and all that, yada yada. Obi-Wan obviously, wants to. He's like, well, when the time comes, like he's almost there, he will want to train him, and which is also what makes me think that like he hasn't completely given up hope because he still does believe he needs to train Luke to save everyone. But this is where we get the sick burn of he trained his dad.
Yep. So many memes.
Woof. But Inquisitors are coming in. They're still hot on the trail of this.
They
rogue
smell
Jedi.
that stinky tuna.
Yeah.
Jedi are around here, those stinky tuna Jedi. And it's just the third sister and fifth brother at this point. And the third sister is just going ham on everybody, just cutting off hands. Threatening to kill Owen and his family.
Kind of sick.
Yeah, she was like, boom, and they showed the hand fall, everything. Classic Ponda Baba losing his arm. Like this was.
Yeah, she right from the get go, because she was just like, "We'll take your hands." And somebody was like, "You guys don't even have jurisdiction here." They don't care.
Jurisdiction.
She's threatening Owen. Just basically picks him out of the crowd. Is just like, what do you know about Jedi? He's like, "Hey man, I got no love for the Jedi," which I genuinely believe.
Yeah.
He does not, but he does care for Luke, I think. So
but he's not a Jedi yet.
But
so.
he's not.
And
a
he
Jedi
doesn't
yet.
want him to be a Jedi.
Technically,
he's very
no
smart.
Jedi.
He tells the truth through his lies.
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
So
Absolutely. But she's threatening to kill him and his whole family unless somebody fesses up. And eventually, the fifth brother's just like, "Hey, we'll come back. Everybody, just cool out. This will be fine." Kind of pulls her aside and is like, "What is your problem?
yeah.
Why do you want to find Obi-Wan so badly?" And she's just like, "I need to get what I'm owed," is what she says. So that also hints that there's some sort of either history she knew him or blames him for what's happened to her. I think something along those lines. But she is a woman on a mission, and Obi-Wan thanks Owen for not saying anything, and obviously he's like, "I didn't do it for you, dude."
Yeah.
And walks off to do his thing.
So in your and I just will deviate for a second. In your theory about her being one of the girls at the beginning, I have this hunch that it's like, her. This is my fan theory. I think she got picked up by some bad guys, right?
Sure.
She got tortured by Vader.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Vader, and then now she blames Obi-Wan for letting Anakin live.
Yep.
I could absolutely see
and then putting her through all that pain and all that suffering. And if he had just killed him, then none of this would happen.
Or just done a better job training him.
Yeah.
Keeping him from falling to the dark side. For many reasons, I think, yes, she does blame Obi-Wan.
And then a little Stockholm Syndrome mixed in there with Vader and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. No,
that's my theory. We'll see.
I agree with you. I'm completely on board. So then from there, we're going back to Alderaan. Leia is going out to a family dinner, hobnobbing with the upper crust. Her dad is just played by Jimmy Schmitz once again, literally just begging people to stop slavery. And they're just like,
we want money.
I'm kind of getting paid right now off of this. So let's just have a nice little dinner. And he's like, oh, my God, what do I got to do to get something done around here?
Yeah. Oh, Jimmy
Save
Smith.
it for the Senate.
Save it for the Senate, where you sit in a big auditorium with 1,000 people and try to talk to them all at the same time.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Ugh.
So while that's all going on, Leia is kind of talking with over at the kids' table, talking with her cousin. Droid comes over and delivers some meal, which she thanks. And the cousin can't believe she thanks her droids, which a surefire way to know that somebody's a dick in Star Wars is if they're mean to the droids.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty much everybody attests of the character of a Star Wars character is how do they treat droids. And then he goes into her like, you're not even a real Organa. Everybody says it. That's why you're not allowed on the planet. And I think at this point she uses the Force to just
I was going to 100% because she
read
stares
this
at him for a
kid.
second.
Yeah.
She gives him that beat. There's a beat before she responds to what he's saying, and she kind of has that.
Yeah,
knowing look.
it's baby Force.
I think she's absolutely using her little Force intuition to be like, let me read you, son. Like, I'll tell you everything about yourself.
Do we think that protocol droid that didn't talk, what we saw in the background, who was gold, was 3PO?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I absolutely believe that it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she. After her mother did specifically ask her not to make anybody cry at this dinner, she is pulled aside after destroying her cousin.
Just obliterating.
Absolutely burying him alive. And she, her parents are just like, you have to go apologize. She doesn't want to, of course, because he's a dick. But there's a really, actually, I think a very sweet father-daughter moment between
that's a
Bail
great scene.
and Leia here. Yeah. And, he mentions he too wanted adventure, mentions Purgils, which come up in Rebels. So that was a nice little Easter egg there, reference some other stuff. But he says that she's meant to lead these people. She's going to be a senator someday. And there are many different ways to lead people, which obviously Leia will be a leader of men and women at some point in her life.
Ways,
in multiple ways, both as a politician and then, of course, later as a general. But he's just like, all right, well, take your time and then come back down to dinner. And she's just like, how about I don't? How about I go run off into the woods again? And runs into Flea. This time we see his face from Red Hot Chili Peppers playing some sort of mercenary or bounty hunter named Vect. And he has two goons with him. I think one of them, the woman, may be from Black Sun.
She looked like
I don't know the name of the race, but the alien race that they are. But
Prince Shizor is the Falleen. That's what it is.
Gotcha.
Falleen,
but they are featured pretty. They pop up in Clone Wars, but also came into being around Shadows of the Empire.
Yes.
Which was a book that took place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Was very famous before this whole Disney
Black
thing.
Sun was basically what the current is it Red
Dawn, I think.
Red Dawn. That's kind of what Red Dawn is now, is what Black Sun used to be for Legends, basically.
Right. But they have a very goofy chase sequence through the woods.
Man, they can't catch Leia at all. This was, I honestly, and this is one of my gripes with both of the episodes a little bit. Some of the editing felt a little clunky because this scene could have been cut better to make it more intense to chase, because it felt like they were not running fast at all.
Rob and I were chatting, I guess, a little bit about this offline, but it was just that there's kind of always a little campy, goofy, all that, like in Star Wars, and this was that.
This was it. This was definitely for, obviously Leia's there to be, I hope the kids can have this person to...
She had a couple good moves when she slid under the root and that. I felt like, okay, that was shot
But
cool.
Definitely these people were like, you could have put yakety sax over this, like, because they could not get her. It's not until she sees one of her guardsmen, and then she's yelling for help, and Flea pops around a corner and puts a bolt in them, killing the guard, and they surround her.
I was fully waiting for them to all be around her, and then she just goes under one of their legs.
Yeah.
I was
again.
make it be over. Make it be over, please.
Right. But she does get kidnapped. Bail and Breya reach out to Obi-Wan. He gets the message blinking on his old Clone Wars era communicator that we saw in episode 1.
That weirdly got me a little in the feelings.
Yeah.
That little.
Some of the sound, like the sound design of Star Wars, it lives on through all the movies. So you hear specific noises and you remember moments like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just begging him, please help us find our daughter. You're the only one we can trust with this. He's literally just like, call anybody else. I can't do it. Like,
nah.
I'm not who I was.
And he said, I got a job. I gotta watch Luke.
Yeah.
Tried to use it as a cop-out, to be honest.
He definitely did. And this was a little bit more of just like, okay, this dude really is broken. And
it was not a.
Well, and also, I mean, it's interesting because like this gives I think a little more depth to Obi-Wan's character in comparison to like Anakin. Anakin, they both have a compassion, but Anakin's is very much more reckless, and like he would have answered that call no question. Whereas Obi-Wan was always kind of reserved and would be like, no, I've been told to do this. Someone else can handle that.
Right.
Both based on like what's happened in the history, but also him as a character being more reserved.
Absolutely. And I was rewatching a little bit of Clone Wars kind of leading up into this and watching part of that last 4 stretch of Clone Wars when Ahsoka shows back up and is like, hey, Maul is on Mandalore. She shows up with Bo-Katan and it's just like, you need to come help us, like finish this job that you started. And then of course, at that point, Anakin's all on board. He wants to go. He wants to help do all he can. And Obi-Wan's like, we gotta clear this with the council.
Yeah.
Bo-Katan tries to throw it in his face, like this man Maul murdered my sister, who I thought meant something to you, and he's just like, well, of course she does.
And Qui-Gon.
He of course she matters to me, but I can't let that impact my judgment.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely, he tries to keep things separate and compartmentalized, and
that's the Jedi
that's very
code
much
speaking, and not necessarily Obi-Wan. It's very much that.
Yeah. So he pretty much just hangs up on him. Nope, sorry, can't do it. Oh, I'm going into a tunnel. You're breaking up. Bye. Click. But the next day in town, Obi-Wan sees that Nari, the rogue Jedi, was caught and killed by the Inquisitors. He returns home. His security system has gone off. There's somebody in there, and sure enough, it's Bail, who's just like, all right, say it to my face. Say no to my face.
What now?
Yeah. But Obi-Wan again. He said he doesn't want to abandon Luke. And Bail, I think this I really enjoyed the scene because he's just like, Leia is just as important as Luke.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you cop out.
Yeah.
You couldn't save Anakin. You can still save this girl, and she's just as important. She's just as big a deal. I'm not going to let you say no.
Yeah.
And he lets him know that they've tracked the ship down to a planet called Daiyu. So it turns out this planet is not one that we've seen, I believe, in the canon before.
Yeah. Let's talk a little about Daiyu. So okay, well, let's finish up. So basically, after that, he digs up the lightsaber and he's like, "Okay, I'm going." And he gets
on the ship.
Yeah,
and then
he's flashing that lightsaber a little bit too freely.
Yeah, that was a little that was definitely for the camera.
Oh, for sure.
But the last little bit of important things that happens in that first episode is that after Lola almost breaks Leia out, Flea comes in, Vect comes in, smashes up Lola, and then reports to his boss. Dun dun dun. Turns out it's Reva that's hired these mercenaries to not kidnap Leia, but kidnap Bail Organa's child because she knows that Obi-Wan and Bail were close during the Clone Wars and thinks this will lure him out.
100% bait.
Yeah. But then, yes, part 2 of this, episode 2 of Obi-Wan starts out on Daiyu, which has a very Blade Runner feel. And,
Deborah, very much
it was like kind of Macau meets like Hong Kong.
Kind of that
Tokyo.
underworld. It almost referenced episode 2, the underworld nightclub kind of scene.
Yeah,
it felt very much like that.
Absolutely. And Deborah Chow did say that the nightlife in Bangkok and Hong Kong were a big
I could see it.
inspiration for her in making the design of that planet. But Obi-Wan's poking around, asking people about like, hey, I'm looking for this ship, and turns out Daiyu's kind of like a Vegas. What happens here stays here. They're like, listen, people got their secrets. You don't ask, don't tell around here.
Yeah.
We don't get into that. But he's walking through the streets, and we get, I think, a really great cameo here from Tamora Morrison, playing a clone veteran begging for money.
Oh, that was great
On the sidewalk, possibly in 501st armor.
I thought it was Rex. I was for a second. I was.
That would have made me so sad.
I know. I thought it was one of our beloved clone troopers from Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It was a cool cameo, though, and I think it was interesting how Obi-Wan reacted to it. Was very kind of jarring, because I mean he's been a hermit for 10 years, doesn't know what's happened to a lot of like the rest of the galaxy. So him kind of re-emerging and him kind of almost being like a fish out of water in a lot of these scenarios was cool to see.
Yeah, and you have to imagine he's just like, I hope this guy doesn't recognize me.
Honestly, that's what it looked like.
I was thinking the same thing of like, is he gonna?
He looked 501st, and I mean they would have seen Obi-Wan. I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part of it is just you see at this point there's also stormtroopers walking around, patrolling garrison. So at this point, obviously, all clone troopers have been phased out and retired.
So here's my question: how do you get a veteran clone trooper like that just out on the street? Because to me, like, you execute Order 66, like that's freaking chips in your brain, like that's what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah. So to me, I was like, this guy has to be like Bad Batch or like somebody that has something a little bit different, defective. And so that's why I was like, this has got to be somebody or something. But I mean, I don't know.
Maybe he'll come back. Who knows?
He could pop back up again. Obviously,
I don't need him to be honest.
Me neither. I don't need
no,
him. But they can do a comic, side shoot 5-issue comic series about him. I can deal with that.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily need him to pop back up again. And we're still kind of seeing how that phase worked out from that transition from clone troopers to stormtroopers on the show Bad Batch, which is only a season in, and we're just starting to see that transition happen. But I know at least through the Empire's thinking, their idea is like, well, if we're gonna basically turn this thing into a police state, people might not rebel as much if it's their own people.
Yeah, that's
and
kind of the philosophy.
They're protected by the people that they know around them.
Yeah,
and it was to quickly move away from the idea that the whole Clone Wars happened. Kind of, I think it's kind of like pushing that, like that's all in the past. This is a new kind of order where we don't address what the Old Republic was.
We can't shoot, but it's the same.
Yeah.
It's better.
But then Obi-Wan, apparently there's something about Obi-Wan that screams, "Please offer me drugs," because both in episode 2, the guy tries to give him death sticks. Here, this young girl tries to sell him some spice.
It's the hood, man.
He looks he's the fish out of water. He just looks too sober for any of these situations.
Yeah,
he's just kind of old man trudging along, looking lost. You know, he's got the hood on. He's got kind of this like, where do I go look? And then people are just like, drugs?
And you look like you could use somebody. You look like you've been through a rough time. But he says he's there looking for his daughter. That's his whole thing. And this girl is actually pretty nice to him. It's just like, you're not going to find her. People disappear here every day. I used to be somebody's daughter.
Yeah.
Here's a hit free on the house. Come on back to me
This was one of my maybe a different guest star situation.
Is this somebody that you've seen in other stuff?
No, I couldn't put in.
No, yeah, I didn't know.
But it was just like maybe it's the way they shot it. I was just like, why are we on a like 3/4 angle of this person?
We're giving her a lot of camera time,
and it was just like, say your lines, do the thing. Here's your thing, and then we go away.
Right.
I don't know.
I think that maybe they just wanted
very small nitpicky thing.
I think they just were really trying to sell. He's got that stuff in his pocket for later.
Yeah.
But a boy overhears what they're talking about, and it's just like, hey, you need some help. I know there's a local Jedi around here. I can bring you to him, and he can help you out. He helps all kinds of people around here. So he brings him to a guy named Haja, who's played by Kumail Nanjiani. We meet him as he's helping a woman who's trying to hide her Force-sensitive child, it seems, help them get off planet. He's got all these what appears to be Force powers that he's using to like draw the blinds and move stuff around. But Obi-Wan, who's watching this all in the shadows, immediately is like, I smell out a cosplayer.
I kind of.
How many of us were fooled though?
I the first thing I was like, oh cool, and then I was like, wait a minute, he just opened some doors.
He's showing off a little too much.
And then it was just like obviously you can't do the mind trick through a radio.
That was the thing for me that I was like,
nah.
Yeah, that was like, this
I
is
am entering your mind. Just like something's off here. But
I love the snake oil salesman Jedi. I think that's really great. It's a great idea for character. It's a great. I think it's a great little bit for Kumail. I thought he did a good job. So.
I enjoyed it quite a bit as well. But yeah, so Obi-Wan, doesn't admit that he is a Jedi, but does say like, hey man, like I know you're not what you're saying you are. I could blow up your spot, or you can help me find this girl I'm looking for.
This was one of the many moments throughout the episodes where I was like, is he gonna do the Jedi thing? And he didn't, which I kind of love. Where he's like, like when you hear that click, and I'm like, did he just pull out his lightsaber? And no, it's a gun in his chest. Like I was like, all right. Okay, not yet.
You gotta wait for it, because I totally understand why he's just like, that's last resort. But Haja points him to a pretty seedy part of town where we get our first spice meth lab in the Star Wars universe. It seems
breaking Jawas or something.
Exactly, he did have very much like Walter White sort of
between
get
the
up
masks and the ponchos,
the full blue. Yeah, I was giggling. 'Cause I was
But he creates a little explosion with the Force, as these sort of things happen, as I guess you're cooking up spice, and then uses that moment as a distraction to get into the back, fights off a Zabrak and some other dude to find out where Leia is, and finds the door but once he opens expecting to see Leia, instead it's a trap. It's a trap. Vect and Co. have set up this whole thing, and they get him up against the wall, steal his lightsaber, punch him in the nose, like all this stuff. He's bleeding all over the place. And they tell him, the Inquisitor called this, like, she has you pegged, like, we're gonna bring her here and you're gonna die, buddy. But Obi-Wan's a crafty dude.
He's a scrappy little fella.
He remembers he's got that spice in his pocket. He throws it down on the ground. Also a very Walter White sort of move. And while they are in a spice-induced drug haze, he manages to give him a slip. I'm guessing here he uses sort of his guidance in the Force to find where Leia is and does bust her out. And I think there's a really cute dynamic between the two of them. She's got a lot of questions. Obviously for good reason.
No, for sure.
Who are you?
Why
again?
would you trust anyone who busts into your cell?
She's a smart cookie, and I think in the best way she kind of she is very real with him. It's like, excuse me, who the heck is? I love that realness.
Very reminiscent of Episode 4.
Yeah,
coming out of the trash compactor, being like, "I'm the leader. I'm gonna get us out of here because no one else seems to know what they're doing."
Yes, yeah, she's very happy to lead the way. Seems to be very enamored with everything going on around her, because this is her first time off of Alderaan.
Yeah,
a lot of new environments here for her. She's not intimidated at all. She's just like, "This is great. You're a Jedi." He's like, "Shh, don't. What are you doing?
Don't touch this. Don't look at that. Don't smell that."
And she's happy to put her fingers just pretty much in everything.
I think it's a really great dynamic of Obi-Wan's kind of old and crotchety at this point, and she's like, "You're old and crotchety. I don't know if I like you. I'm gonna do whatever the heck I want." And he's like, "No, no,
don't." But then we see the Grand Inquisitor and the Fifth Brother, and actually I think another Inquisitor's with them.
Yes.
Somebody that we haven't been introduced to by name yet.
I don't know what race she was. She had kind of this cool.
She kind of has head tails.
brave.
Not a Twi'lek, but something.
Yeah. Not sure who she is yet. I'm sure she'll come up more a bit later. But they're giving Reva a dress down here for concocting this plot, going off reservation a bit here, trying to get Obi-Wan on her own. And at this point, they say something interesting, that they say that she's the least of them.
Yeah.
Which also I think could mean a lot of things, whether she wasn't like an officially trained Jedi, whether she was just like a Force adept they pulled off the street, or maybe she never completed her training.
Yeah.
Was just
if she was taken as a youngling, she would have less experience.
Yeah.
Kind of by that.
Which explains a bit why she has a chip on her shoulder and feels she needs to bag this big fish to up her clout in the Inquisitor circles. But he's he's dressing her down and saying, I'm gonna get Obi-Wan myself now that I know he's here, and then when I get him, I will deal with you. But Reva has plans of her own and basically puts out an APB on Obi-Wan just to get all the bounty hunters in the area, to get their eyes on him. And so this is happening as they're getting some new duds and kind of just trying to get their disguises ready. And Leia at this point has a lot of questions like, "If you're a Jedi, prove it. Like, why didn't you make me float, huh?" And he's trying to keep obviously low profile. Then Leia sees the APB, Haja sees the APB, as does the general or the Grand Inquisitor, and Leia seeing this is just like, wait a second, like, who are you again? Like, you haven't proven to me anything. She bolts. She goes off on her own.
You're a bad guy. I run.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know you. How am I supposed to? How can I trust that you know my dad? But she runs off. And there's another chase through after Leia. This time through the city, we get to see a lot of the city, and this time she doesn't seem to be quite as enamored with what she's seeing. She's kind of like, weird aliens, weird people.
There's one scene where she walks through the creatures, and like they'll scare her a little bit.
Yeah, but now of course the bounty hunters are spotting this whole thing going down, and they pick up a few tails. There's a few bounty hunters that are firing off pot shots at Obi-Wan as
Some
he's
cool bounty hunters, by
I
the
would
way.
say I love the alien. Whenever they do, aliens have always been a cool thing for me with Star Wars, and I love how they threw in a couple new ones.
The
in there.
crocodile was
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, I saw that
Great.
dude sitting off to the side in one scene. I'm like, I bet they come back. That's a real cool character
Yeah,
design.
like they
to
wouldn't
just
have
throw
made that
away.
mask for nothing.
Right. So Obi-Wan is, again, proving himself, even though he finds blasters quite uncivilized, proves to be quite adept with them for the most part.
For the most part.
For the most part.
There's some pretty clean shots that he just completely whiffed. Like,
That's true.
on that rooftop. Oh, boy.
Yeah, true. But he's chasing after Leia, and eventually, this goes to the rooftops. She finds a big gap that she wants to jump over. Takes a bit of a too big of a bite that she can chew, and ends up falling and hanging onto like a clothes wire. And as she falls, Obi-Wan has no choice. He has to use the Force to save her at this point.
Yep.
She gets her wish. She gets to float a little bit, and then it's proven to her, hey, he really is a Jedi. And now she's just like, all right, you are who you say you are.
Now, in this moment, this was the poignant moment for me in which I think a part of me wants to make the claim that I think Obi-Wan closed himself off from the Force so that maybe he's not as noticeable or discoverable as
Sure.
a Jedi, and just as like trying to keep himself secret. And in this moment, he was like that because it felt, at least from what I saw, it looked like it was difficult for him to actually catch her.
Yeah.
It was definitely a struggle. I feel like it's the rust coming off. It's like kind of breaking the seal of accessing that, and I think later on in the scene, Reva can feel him.
Yeah, exactly.
And
She's,
so
after he does that, she senses him. Then the guy starts shooting at him, and there's that whole like
Absolutely.
Right.
things
Yeah,
take off.
and you mentioned this before we actually started recording too, but I want to bring it up now. But this feels very reminiscent of Luke in
that's
The Last Jedi, of where Obi-Wan is at this point,
very
where
much.
closed off from the Force, doesn't really want to be doing this, feels that like not only has he failed, but may not be what everybody thought he was.
Yeah.
And very
Well, and he
down
has
on
a
his
line
luck.
in the first episode that it's time for the Jedi to be done, or like it's their time is over,
Yeah.
and
Time
then
is
that
over.
parallels to Luke's line, "The time of the Jedi is over,"
Yeah.
or it's the Last Jedi kind of thing.
As Lucas said,
Yeah.
Star Wars rhymes,
Yeah.
So it's just
The poetry is definitely in this show.
No, for sure. So at that point, Leia has, Obi-Wan has won over Leia's trust, and they do have another bounty hunter pop up behind them, but luckily Haja saves them and seems to want to help them, actually. I was a little bit questioning about whether he really was as altruistic as he was saying, but he says, listen, there's a cargo bay nearby with some automated transports. They've shut down travel on and off the planet at this point, but if you can go over there, you can probably get somewhere safe and possibly get out of here. That'll make us square.
Yeah.
He seems to, for whatever reason, want to make up to Obi-Wan. This whole thing of impersonating a Jedi now that he's seen that he is a real Jedi. So after they leave, he's just like, don't worry, I'll take on Reva. And I'm like, oh no, Kumail, do not do this.
Meanwhile, Reva's just flipping and spinning and jumping
Literally,
all over.
Sith parkour is what I call
she's
it.
parkour
very
is at,
Mirror's
like, level
Edge,
10. Oh my gosh. I was like, all right, get it, girl. Like, go for it.
She was
Get after it.
flying
Yeah.
through that city, trying to get after Obi-Wan.
Very Batman-esque almost, with the cape and everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Little Batman, little Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Daredevil. Take your pick. It's like,
So she shows up and just finds Haja there, and he's just like, yeah, you caught me. I'm the Jedi you're looking for. And she just force slams him up against the wall.
and
It's
then
like,
just
you're obviously not.
reads his mind like a playbook.
Yeah, just pulls that information right out of him, Kylo Ren style. And so at that point, also we've got the Grand Inquisitor, going about his own way of trying to find Obi-Wan, slicing up Vect with his spinning blade off screen. And Obi-Wan and Leia have another cute moment in the cargo area where she's just like, come on, like, let's go. This is our plan. We're off to the next thing. And he's just like, it's clear that she reminds him very much of, I think, both of her parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He compares her to Padme,
Anakin,
but I think there's a lot of Anakin in this moment as well. And it's very sweet to see
I would
have that moment.
I would say this is one of my favorite moments of the first two was this moment in particular. There are a lot of really great references to Obi-Wan and his prior self throughout, and I think they did a really good job of not just smacking us over the face with it. Like there wasn't a hello there wasn't any of that, but there were some really interesting just mannerisms that he brought back. One of which you're actually kind of doing it right now.
Yeah, the beard.
It's
very much
where he
that.
like twirls
Classic.
his mustache a little bit, and then in this moment with Padme, or like with thinking of Padme, he has this stance when he's just standing there looking at her, that he has when he's watching Anakin do things, and like he's got the robe on and the lightsaber, and you're just like, yeah.
It definitely
It's just
takes you back.
it's those moments of like it represent like the imagery works in such a way where it's like this is the guy. It's still in there despite everything having changed. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, that sweet moment doesn't last long because Reva
Unfortunately.
is right behind them. And Obi-Wan is just like, Leia, get to the ship. I will hold her off as long as I can. If you need to, leave me behind. And as he's hiding behind, these different boxes trying to evade her, even, pulling out his lightsaber at one point and kind of looking at it like,
what do I do with this?
Am I ready to use this yet? Reva drops a nuclear bomb on Obi-Wan at this point of just like, when I catch you, I'll bring you to him. Vader will be pleased to see you. And she can feel his surprise through the Force of just like, oh, you didn't know he's still alive.
Yeah.
And you can see that. I mean, this is where Ewan McGregor earned his paycheck.
Oh my God.
This was probably my favorite moment of the 2 episodes.
That shock and pain
Right. I mean,
in his eyes.
if you listen to the last episode, that was like one of the things that I was most excited to see.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't see necessarily Anakin, or maybe he does. I don't know. It's like that whole thing in Star Wars when people like connect across like a galaxy, and it's like
they open the eyes.
Yeah, and that whole it was a great way to end the episode. It's also just a great it's that moment that we all wanted of like what is it gonna and it's square on Ewan, and he just
and I think that lends itself to your theory too of she's just like your guy that you were supposed to take care of, he's still very alive. What do you think of that? So she drops it on him, and she's got him cornered. It seems like she's about to probably stab him when the Grand Inquisitor shows up and is like, Reva, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be here. Like,
This is not proper.
This is not the which we can maybe even get into some final thoughts after this, but she is so annoyed with him. She just stabs him right through the gut.
Yeah.
She just stabs him, her boss.
Yeah.
Which is like, wow, a big moment, which
honestly, classic Sith move. The Sith do this to each other all the time.
Absolutely.
pretty Sith.
This is a surprise. So and those that have seen Rebels will also. I was surprised because this takes place before Rebels, and the Grand Inquisitor is very much alive on Rebels. So I don't think he's dead at this point. Though
interesting.
he did have the whole eyes open, like I'm stabbed.
If you didn't know he was in the other content, you'd think he's dead.
I didn't know it, and I thought he was dead.
I mean, they maybe are rewriting some canon here. You don't know.
Or maybe the
Things
Grand
change.
Inquisitor's a title and just the same. I mean, the same
They find
species
somebody
gets it.
the exact same
like,
species,
hey.
or maybe he was their first like experiment with cloning a Force user or something.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So they're able to bring him back in some way. Maybe that because obviously I think a big part of the post episode 9 retconning that they're trying to do here through Star Wars is they were working on a cloning program this whole time. To bring back
or he's just really tough,
immortal, or he's just real
Stabs
tough.
to the chest, don't kill everybody.
Or he can just take one straight to the gut.
He just sleeps it off. Who knows? Walks it off.
Bacta's a powerful.
I was gonna
substance.
say
Back
we
to
are on the Bacta podcast, so that spray has some magical properties.
but after
by lightsaber
during that whole chaos, Obi-Wan is able to get to the ship. He's there with Leia, and they are able to get the button and get out of there. And even though Leia's obviously relieved, clearly Obi-Wan is still shook, and we get a cut to a very angry looking Anakin in his own Bacta podcast.
Yes, I the fact that it ended on somebody in a Bacta tank just made me so happy because unreasonably happy, and I was like, here we go.
This is it.
It's like what a great segue.
Whew. So that we ended this 2-parter with the throw to Vader
and the breathing
and the
breathing.
We got the whole thing.
So, but that's really good.
Well, it's only a matter of time now before we get a bit more of that on screen.
Yeah, well done, Rob. That's
thank you.
Quite a marathon there. So I think one of the things we all mentioned, but we'll talk about some big picture stuff that we all really liked.
Yeah.
I think the first thing being for me, the overall tone of the show. I think they hit some really great buttons. Number one being, like I said, the violence.
Yep.
But actually, it's the tasteful violence. It wasn't like over the top.
Yeah, it wasn't gratuitous
it was,
or for nothing. It meant something, and there were stakes.
Right. It was just the correct tone, I think, in that way. And the second thing for me that really kind of stepped it up was the music.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the score, it just felt like caps lock Star Wars with the way the score was composed. I think both composers did a great job. I was just very, very happy with the gravitas that it felt like the movies. It
Oh,
really
it
felt
did.
like the movies, which I don't think any of the shows have been able to achieve so far, to be honest. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah, John Williams obviously in his bag doing his thing. You know, I didn't know exactly what to expect from this Obi-Wan theme, but I was, and I don't want it to make it sound like I didn't like it. I do very much like the theme, but I was expecting something very like kind of triumphant, but it's so like kind of sad and defeated. And
I mean, it's coming off of episode 3. It mimics
makes
it what Obi-Wan's going through.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the theme very much. Obviously the man is 90 years old and still absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
You know, another great entry from John Williams.
Also,
the Star Wars
and
catalog.
also shout out to Natalie Holt for doing an amazing job with, I mean, the rest of the
keeping
score.
within and making it feel like you're still in that like John Williams style score series.
Played in the sandbox and played really, really well.
Yep.
What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the the thing I think that I knew it was gonna be the case, but the ability of Ewan McGregor to hold the screen, it was awesome. I was just so happy that it was the case and it wasn't overdone, underdone. I think it was kind of hit right in the sweet spot.
Yeah, he did great work. I mean, all those moments where you have those people looking to him for help and you can see that conflict, or even that moment where towards the end of the second episode where he finds out about Anakin, like that look in his eyes when he's just like, I don't think I can do it. I don't know that I still have it in me.
Yeah.
You see that, like it hurts him very badly. And Ewan McGregor just knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
It's so good to, and this is part of the Star Wars celebration that I've seen a lot. You know, obviously I've had my gripes with the prequels, but it always warms my heart so much to see the actors come back and get their flowers and see the fans get excited about them. I mean, Ewan McGregor for sure, but I think he, for the most part, kind of came out of that. A lot of people were just like, well, he was the good part.
Right.
But even to see, you know, Hayden Christensen or in other circumstances, Ahmad Best, who played Jar Jar Binks, to have them get that appreciation and see that love, I think must mean a lot to them. And it does. It makes me happy to see them finally get that appreciation.
One thing that in watching some of their interviews and stuff that I didn't really think about until they mentioned Ewan talked about how he really, when those movies were coming out, you know, the critics not so much of a fan, but there wasn't social media, there wasn't a lot of internet direct contact with the fans as much as there is today, and by any stretch of the imagination. And so now all those kids that were such big fans that didn't have access to, they now are coming out of the woodwork as, like we were saying, millennials, and they're able to see the appreciation and feel the love from the fans and what it actually meant to all that.
And I think that's part of the magic of Star Wars. I think in another 10, 15 years or whatever, I think it'll be a similar situation for the sequel movies, which have been, very, hot and cold. I think a lot of people or a lot of kids now that are watching this, you see these little girls dressed up as Rey. I think for them, when the time comes, like they won't be thinking about, Rian Johnson versus J.J. Abrams. They'll just be like, these were the movies I grew up on and I had fun watching them.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be really cool to see when that happens.
It's all cyclical.
There we go.
Circle of the
It all
Force.
rhymes.
It all rhymes. Yeah, this idea that our Obi-Wan and Anakin is there like Rey and Kylo Ren.
Absolutely.
Very much
just
so.
kind of it's so you kind of reserve the judgment a little bit. You take a step back and go, okay.
Well, at the end of the day, it's content for kids. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what Star Wars is at the end of
We're
the day.
just a bunch of big kids.
We'll never get away from these Lola robots and all that, which I think, obviously Lola, I think will be back on the show. A moment that we didn't really touch on is I think Obi-Wan will eventually fix her.
Oh, I thought that was happening right away.
Yeah, same.
I was like, all right, he's gonna fix her.
And that'll be something that he does for Leia again to strengthen their bond. And, eventually I think we'll understand very much why she ended up naming her only son Ben.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And why she calls for his help in episode 4.
Yeah, I thought that was to me, the storytelling of bringing Leia into it was something I did not expect at all.
Same.
And I thought it was a really smart move. And the key was casting a good Leia, and I think they did a good job with that.
Well, and when I saw it, I was like, well, this makes sense, because the only reason Obi-Wan would come out to do anything would be for Leia and Bail Organa. Like, he wouldn't do it for anybody else. And it shows as hard as it was to get him to go save Leia.
Yeah.
Right?
And we know so much about kind of where Luke came from and what his journey was. I did appreciate getting to see a bit more of Leia as a child. And get to know what her circumstances were like and, how it was difficult for her growing up. And it's a character that, I just think has been a little bit underserved in some of the other parts of the story. So I like to see her get the spotlight a bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's all totally earned. It's just kind of this smaller piece of the puzzle that we didn't really necessarily think of, but then now it makes total sense. I mean, it really does. What are you guys looking forward to most for next week and the weeks to come?
For me, seeing Darth Vader in his suit out of the Bacta pod, I would love to see that. And
It's just him in the pod the whole
Yeah,
time.
and seeing Obi-Wan ignite that lightsaber, because he has not done that yet.
Yeah.
He was as close as we've seen him so far to doing that yet. And
Did the lightsaber look big to anybody on screen? Am I crazy? Maybe it was just the lens, but
it looked like he was almost putting it together for a second. I don't know.
It was. I mean, and I think we only usually ever see them in their hands.
Yeah.
But he had it like here, and it just seems so. I don't know. It's just, I
Maybe.
think it's just a perspective thing. But
I mean, it even could be just like a prop thing that they purposely made it bigger than it was, so it looked awkward in his hands or something, just as a visual cue. I'm not sure, but
because I'm looking at this right here, and I can hold up on screen here, but it's like the size of maybe my head.
Yeah.
And
granted, style-wise, that's actually a shorter lightsaber.
Okay, fair enough.
That would be called a hand and a half hilt.
Okay.
Got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dropping knowledge.
Seriously. I don't know what Obi-Wan's is necessarily, like as far as the style goes. I mean, he has that big section on top of
very much
his,
like Luke's episode 6. Yeah, he's got like an extended little like section which you wouldn't really grab. I'm looking for like a picture of him holding it in hand, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, even off his waist was when he was going through the airport, which Tatooine TSA is obviously needs some work.
Not so great.
By the time Mando's trying to get in and out, it seems to have stepped up quite a bit. But
here's a prop. I don't know. Yeah, it kind of is. It's a little.
It's
bit.
a little large.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. But yeah, no, it looked like it had some length hanging off of his hip there. Oh God. Oh, boy.
Walked right into that one there, bro.
Yeah, I sure did. As I was saying it, I realized what it sounded like.
And there were a couple things also. Sorry, you were saying you were most looking forward to. We cut you off.
It was seeing him ignite the lightsaber and Darth Vader in his suit. That's kind of what I'm looking. Because right now I'm glad they released 2 episodes. If they had only released the first one, I would have been a little bit like maybe not concerned, but a little more uneasy. But that second episode sold it for me. Going to the new planet, the chase scene there with Reva, that whole potential fight that was almost gonna go down, the way they ended it, like that episode got me hyped.
Yeah. It's interesting to me that some people were able to just watch one episode. I was like, how what? Like, how do you do that? Why would you do that? Rob, what about you?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm excited about is that through both of the trailers that we have seen, I think 90% of what was in those trailers was in these 2 episodes.
Agreed.
Meaning that we're going to get a lot of content that we haven't seen anything of yet.
Yeah.
One of the things that was shown that we haven't seen yet is I forget the exact name, but the Castle Inquisitorius or whatever it's called, the home base of the Inquisitors.
Yeah. Oh.
And I think they're going to be kind of circling up to be like, what do we do about Reva?
Yeah.
Whether it's the Grand Inquisitor or whoever is now in charge while he's in his Bacta pod.
Yeah, we don't talk about Reva.
Yeah.
Reva.
How do you deal with a problem like Reva? But I think it's going to be interesting to see how that story unfolds, and if now she is kind of gone rogue herself, and then there's just like this third party kind of involved hunting both of them down.
Right. I think for me, also definitely looking forward to the lightsaber at all. I'm a little nervous that we're not going to get to see Obi-Wan like do his thing. Like I love seeing the lightsaber battles. Are just some of my favorite parts of the show, of the movies and the shows. And there's a lot of rust on Obi-Wan right now,
for sure.
And just the idea that he's gonna be able to go up against flipping and parkouring.
Well, it's kind of almost it's like it's another because I mean he's got that wisdom, and I think some of that training I'm sure is still ingrained in him, that it's gonna come back second nature when he needs it. That instinct part. But it'll be interesting seeing him fight someone. I hope he fights Reva at some point. I would love to see that younger, more like Anakin-like character that's like going to do whatever it takes versus this more wiser character.
Yeah, I mean, I think Obi-Wan's always been a smart fighter. He's not
100%.
Always like if he going back to episode 3 with his fight with Grievous, he didn't fight Grievous very much. He tried to stay because Grievous, you don't really fight. He's got four lightsabers. You don't really fight him up close. You kind of fight him from afar, which is how he beat him.
Right.
So very much a strategic Jedi.
Absolutely.
I'm just hoping we're not going back to the episode 4 lightsaber battle.
Yeah. I think we'll be somewhere in between.
Battle.
I think we'll be somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between. The episode 1 flipping and turning and the
He's
Clash.
not as spry as he used to
Clash.
be.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he probably won't be flipping as much.
No,
I
or he could go full Count Dooku and just like
Yeah.
be flying everywhere. That's
true,
that's
yeah.
Maybe he learned a trick or two from Yoda. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that dude is old and he still can get it up. Oh God.
Rob,
There we go again.
Star Wars Double Entendre.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well
It's a
done.
different podcast.
All right. Well, I mean, I think no matter what, I feel really excited about the show. I think it's
Yeah.
so far the best 2 episodes out of the Star Wars shows that we've had, the live action ones. And it feels like they're not going to overdo it because we know how many episodes there are, and it's a 6-part event, and then it's going to end a certain way. But I thought the pacing was good, editing was good. I did, unfortunately, feel like some of my worries came true with the CG.
I did, honestly, since the previous podcast when you said that, and then watching the first episode again, there were there's some wide shots when I was like, did you need the wide shot?
Yeah.
I was just like, oh guys, why do we have to turn around on the wide of them standing out on the balcony of that? Did we have to do that?
Yeah.
Did we have to do the big wide with Obi-Wan there?
They can't.
You gotta go to Tunisia if you're gonna do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's
Gotta go to the location.
No, I hear you. It's just it was unavoidable. I think. But yes.
Yeah. At some point, there was going to be some of that. And I think that's, again, just part of Star Wars.
When you see it next year, it'll be different and look so much better.
Yeah, right.
Just like Luke does.
Yeah, but I mean, just part of it. I think just part of the language of the storytelling here in Star Wars is those big sprawling landscapes, and I think they can't resist it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, him walking in the dunes and the sand and stuff like that, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, just before we sign off here, we know there's been it's been a pretty rough week in the world in general, so we just wanted to say we're grateful to have you guys here with us, and there are a lot more important, bigger things going on in the world, but we hope this hour here with us is a little bit of a break from reality, and then you come back and visit us next week here on the podcast.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Cam. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
May the Force be with you.
Nice.